Hey guys, tonight we're stepping into the candlelit halls of a medieval manor, where bridesmaids did not wear lace, and grooms did not exchange vows with paper, but with rings, heralds, and solemn promises. Forget the flowery romance and grand tapestries you see in paintings and movies. The real story is about roasted peacocks carried on platters big enough to hide behind the chatter of guests and the crackle of torches on stone walls. So, tonight we ask what life at a wedding actually felt like in the age of jousts and jugglers. What did it feel like to stand before your lord and pledge your life to another under a sky filled with torches and the soft stir of silk? Every feast came with its own customs, so let me know where you're tuning in from and what time it is where you are. It is always fascinating to see whose hearth we warm tonight. Now dim the lights, pull your blanket close, and let's waltz into the feasting hall of history together. You wake before sunrise, long before the manor stirs. The sky is still dark, but you can feel the promise of morning in the cool air. You climb from your narrow bed and pull on a simple linen shift. Outside your window, the servants move in quiet procession, carrying wooden buckets of water and bundles of fresh herbs. You breathe in the scent of lavender and rosemary, and you know today will be unlike any other. In the great hall, the hearth is lit. Cooks stir embers until they glow, coaxing flame from the damp logs. The room warms with a gentle heat. You step over the threshold and feel the wood floor beneath your feet, smooth from generations of footsteps. A cook dips a ladle into a steaming iron pot and offers you a taste of broth made from root vegetables and early spring greens. You sip it gratefully. The warmth spreads from your tongue down to your belly, and for a moment you taste nothing but promise. Bridesmaids move in a circle near a long oaken table. Their gowns lie in neat piles across the boards. Each gown is made of wool and trimmed with bright ribbon. You watch as one girl lifts a length of blue fabric and shakes it free of wrinkles. She uses a wooden iron that is still warm from the hearth. Another brushes long curls of hair and loops them into delicate braids. Petals of daisies and ferns are tucked beneath each twist. You can hear laughter in their soft voices as they tease one another about nerves and sleepless nights. You slip behind a screen and find your tunic. It is your finest, cut from deep green cloth with buttons of metal that gleam in the firelight. You draw it on and feel the weight of tradition on your shoulders. Your hands tremble only slightly as you fasten each button. A groom must look steady on this day. You adjust your collar, then take a moment to smooth the front with your hands. It fails to iron out the wrinkles in your mind. Below the dais, the cooks work in clusters. One man lifts a wooden tray heavy with eggs and sets it on a bench. A young boy cracks each egg into a bowl and stirs until the yolk and white are one pale gold. Another woman rolls out dough for sweet tarts sprinkled with honey and currants. You can smell the cinnamon and cloves already. It is not yet time to bake them, but the scent drifts through the hall like a song. A gong sounds. It rings deeper than you expect for so small an instrument. You and the other groomsmen straighten your backs. You form a line beside the dais and wait. You cannot see the bride yet. You do not want to spoil the surprise. You whisper to the man next to you about missing teeth and clumsy rides. He grins, and for a moment the nerves loosen in your gut. The cooks slide a massive wheel of cheese onto the table, and the heat of the hearth makes it sweat. Another carries in a platter of fresh game birds picked up at dawn. The rich aroma of roasting meat rises like a promise of plenty. You imagine the feast to come. Spiced venison stew, crusty loaves of bread, thick slices of honeycomb. But for now you stand quietly, absorbing the sight of readiness all around you. A bridesmaid steps forward and sets a simple wooden bowl at each place on the dais. Inside each bowl is a single sprig of rosemary. It is the symbol of remembrance and fidelity. You glance at the sprig nearest you and touch its needles. They prick your finger, and you taste the resinous scent on your tongue. The world feels sharper now. You hear a tap on the door and turn to see the chamberlain enter. He He bows to the gathered men and women. His voice is calm and clear as he announces that dawn preparations are complete. The time to don headdresses and cloaks has come. You lift the green hood draped over a nearby chair and slip it over your tunic. The soft cloth frames your face. It brings back memories of winter hearths and the first thaw. You inhale the scent of wool and smoke. Bridesmaids appear from behind the screen, their gowns now shimmering in jewel tones of blue and gold. One carries a wreath of fresh flowers woven with white ribbon. You watch as she approaches the bride. There is a hush, and then a murmur of delight, as each bridesmaid fastens the wreath atop a cascade of dark hair. The petals rest like a promise of new beginnings. The groomsmen line up beside the dais in matching hoods and cloaks. Each of you steadies your breath. No one speaks. The chamberlain steps forward with a scroll tied with green ribbon. He begins to recite the order of the ceremony, the exchange of rings, the joining of hands, and the blessing of bread and salt. You think of the bread baked just an hour ago. You think of how salt preserves and protects. Outside a horn sounds, low and gentle, to summon the guests. You slip from the great hall down a side corridor and out onto the manor's courtyard. The air here is crisp with dew. Peacocks cry in distant trees. Servants stand at attention to guide arriving families to the dais. Armor clatters softly as knights enter, and minstrels tune their shawms and drums. You climb the steps and take your place before the assembled crowd. The sun has risen fully now. Its light spills across the courtyard like liquid gold. You can see the faces of neighbors and noble friends. You see children perched on barrels for a better view. You see elders leaning on staves with smiles of approval. You stand firm. Today is about beginnings and promises and feasting. Today you bear witness to a marriage that will echo through the seasons. A gentle breeze stirs the banners at the gate. You let it wash over you, and in that instant, you forget the night you spent awake, rehearsing vows for a ceremony that now feels like destiny. You look beside you at the other groomsmen. Their eyes shine with the same mixture of dread and joy. You share a nod. You know one another perfectly on this morning of all mornings. The bride emerges at last, and the world holds its breath. She moves like a promise across the courtyard. You see her face framed by that wreath of blossoms. You see her gown of white linen embroidered with gold thread. You see her smile when her eyes find yours. The moment stretches, and you know no one will ever forget it. The chamberlain calls for silence. Guests lean forward. Minstrels hush. Even the wind stills. Today the manor is alive with hope and new life. Today the hearths will blaze long into the night, and laughter will echo off the walls. Today 2 lives become 1. You stand and take your place in history. When the bride reaches the dais, you gently fasten your cloak more snugly and lift your gaze to the rising sun. You are ready. You step back into the hall as the first light of morning filters through narrow windows. The hearth now burns steadily, its flames dancing against the stone. The cooks have shifted to their next task. Bowls of oats glimmer in the firelight. They stir them with wooden spoons until they form a thick porridge scented with honey and cinnamon. You watch one cook lift a spoonful and blow gently, then taste it and nod. It will warm everyone from the inside out. Across the room, the bride's mother oversees the final touches on the dowry chest. It sits open on a low table, lined with soft white linen. Inside are lengths of fine wool cloth, jars of sweetmeats preserved in wine, and a small bag of silver coins wrapped in embroidered cloth. She arranges each item tenderly, placing them so that they all catch the golden glow of the rising sun. Her fingers tremble only slightly as she fastens the lid shut with a carved wooden lock. Today she gives her daughter more than a gift. She gives her a foundation for a new life. Bridesmaids circle the chest and whisper among themselves. One adjusts the clasp on a small box of combs wrought from ivory. Another fastens a ribbon to a jar of rosewater that will scent the bride's chambers. Their laughter is light, but their eyes shine with pride. They know that every stitch and every ribbon will be remembered long after the feast is over. Groomsmen gather near the side door. They practice the steps of the ceremonial dance that will follow the wedding vows. Their tunics rustle as they move in time to a quiet tune hummed by one of the younger pages. You join in, placing your feet deliberately on the wooden floor. The dance is simple but meaningful. It binds two families and two souls with every measured step. You feel the rhythm in your bones and smile when your partner bows without losing the flow of the steps. At the far end of the hall, the steward inspects rows of wooden benches, arranged for the guests. He checks each bench for stability. He taps the seats with the hilt of his sword to test the wood. Satisfied, he nods to the chamberlain and moves on to the guest list pinned to the wall. He crosses off names one by one as each guest arrives. You shield your eyes against the sun and see the first noble families making their way down the corridor, their cloaks of velvet and satin trailing behind them. Outside the manor gates, the courtyard buzzes with activity. Stable hands lead horses to grazing fields. A groom polishes the harness with oil until leather gleams. A porter hefts a large barrel of ale onto a cart, then hurries through the gates, the wheels leaving tracks in the soft earth. You pause by a window and see a stable boy stroke a nervous filly. He hums a tune as he brushes the mare's mane. For a moment you forget the day's burdens and smile at the simple kindness. Back inside the great hall, you move to where the florists have set up. Petals of lilies and wild roses spill from baskets onto a long table. Vines of ivy climb wooden trellises, waiting to be woven into garlands. You dip your fingers into a bowl of fresh water scented with lavender oil and tuck a sprig behind your ear. The scent lingers in your hair like a gentle blessing. A florist hands you a spray of myrtle. She explains it stands for love and good fortune. You tie it to the hilt of your sword, and it rests against your tunic like a quiet promise. Near the dais, the priest prepares his altar. He arranges white cloth over a stone plinth and places a small wooden cross where it will catch the morning light. A single candle stands beside it in a simple iron holder. He opens his prayer book and turns the pages carefully, his voice low as he practices the Latin blessings. You step closer and hear the words roll off his tongue with gravity and grace. You bow your head in respect, remembering the gravity of this union and the hope it carries for both families. In another corner, the minstrels ready their instruments. A harp, two shawms, and a small drum lean against the wall. The harpist plucks a string and listens for the correct tension. One of the shawm players tests a reed, adjusting it between his fingers. The drummer taps a beat on the drum's skin and nods when the tone is just deep enough. They test the tune that will open the feast and the dance. The melody is bright and welcoming. You tap your foot and hum along. Music can carry the heart when words are not enough. Someone summons you to the side door. It is a messenger from a neighboring manor with a gift for the couple. You accept a small chest bound with green ribbon. Inside is a delicate silver circlet set with garnets. The locket on your belt grows heavy with its promise of friendship between houses. You bow and thank the messenger, who nods and disappears back into the courtyard bustle. A hush falls over the hall as the church bell rings. It tolls once, twice, then 3 times in slow succession. You and the other attendants straighten your posture and return to the dais. The light has shifted now. Sunbeams slice through the windows and paint golden bars across the stone floor. Dust motes dance in the glow, like floating petals. Time seems to slow. Every breath holds a story. Every glance carries a blessing. You feel the weight of tradition settle on you again. It is equal parts honor and responsibility. You press your hands together, fingers entwined, and exhale slowly. Then the doors at the far end of the hall swing open. A breeze trails through and lifts the hem of the bride's gown as she steps forward. You catch your breath. The moment you prepared for has arrived. You stand a little taller and welcome her presence with a bowed head and a steady smile. Behind her follow the bridesmaids, each one glowing with excitement. Their gowns of jewel tones contrast with her pure white. Garlanded with myrtle and rose, she comes forward with measured steps, her eyes bright and full of promise. You glance at your fellow groomsmen and nod. Today you are witness to something rare and beautiful. The chamberlain begins the welcome. His voice echoes in the hall. You kneel by the dais and follow his lead, opening your arms to greet both bride and groom. The hall seems to exhale as they join hands and face each other. The moment is complete, a perfect union of light and shadow, of warmth and stone. You lean back and watch as the officiant begins the ceremony. The hall listens. The hearth crackles between you and the rows of guests. The moment stretches, and then, like the first chord of a song, it resolves into a new beginning. You are part of it now. The feast will come later. The music will fill the night. The vows you did not speak will carry through seasons and years. But for this moment, you simply stand and witness, grateful for dawn, for tradition, and for the promise of what lies ahead. You wake before dawn once more, but this time the manor is not still. From the courtyard comes the voice of the town crier. He stands atop a sturdy barrel and raises his bell high, the iron clapper swinging twice to gather attention. The sound rings through the misty morning air like a summons to every corner of the village. All around you, people pause in their chores. A shepherd lifts his head from his flock. Bakers stop tending their ovens. Even the church mouse herself seems to freeze in her hole beneath the granary. The crier's voice booms out. Hear ye, hear ye. By order of lord and lady, this wedding shall take place upon the morrow at the 7th hour. The banns have been proclaimed. Let no man say he did not know. You feel a thrill of anticipation. This is the moment when story becomes real and every household must prepare to honor their vow to attend. You slip from the great hall to the stables, where groomsmen ready horses for the journey to neighboring manors. You brush the dust from your boots and climb into the saddle of a fine bay charger. The scent of hay and horse sweat sharpens your senses. You tighten your cloak and lean forward, letting the reins rest lightly in your hands. The road to the nearest village is already alive. Carts creak slowly along the rutted dirt lane, drawn by oxen or sturdy mares. Guests wrapped in cloaks of wool and velvet step down from their carriages and stretch their legs. Children clutch small pouches of coins and race ahead to see what games might be set up in the village green. You smile at their laughter, echoing between the timbered houses. A minstrel sits beside a hedge, tuning his lute. He nods as you approach and begins a soft melody made for weddings and journeys. The tune soothes your heart. You raise a hand in greeting and press your horse to a gentle trot. Ahead, a coach painted in deep red waits at the crossroads. Its driver tips his hat and holds out a hand to a pair of ladies alighting in fine gowns of green and gold. Each lady carries a small basket of flowers to scatter along the path for the bride's arrival. Beyond the crossroads, you pass an old stone chapel. Its walls are thick with ivy, and the door stands open to welcome travelers who wish to offer prayers for safe passage. A priest in plain cloak stands on the threshold, holding a bowl of holy water. He splashes a few drops onto the road before you. The water glitters in the sunlight. You bow your head and touch your forehead, murmuring a quick prayer for good fortune. Onward you ride until the trees thin and open to reveal a wide meadow. Here a company of archers practices their aim. Their longbows flex with quiet power as they send arrows thudding into wooden targets. One of them greets you with a nod and a laugh, calling out that the wedding day will require more than rounded heads and quick feet. You grin and lift your hand, then pass on. Late morning finds you at the bridge over a bubbling brook. Beneath its stone arches, the water runs clear and cool. Town criers from neighboring parishes cluster here, each standing atop a barrel of his own with a leather drum strapped across his shoulder. They call out in turn the name of the bride and groom, the manor where the feast will be held, and the hour to assemble. The sound overlaps in a pleasant chaos that echoes up and down the valley. You dismount and offer your charger to a stable hand. The boy receives the reins eagerly. You kneel at the edge of the brook and wash your hands and face in the icy water. The cold arrests your breath but clears your mind. You catch a glimpse of yourself in the rippling surface and straighten your cloak. A strand of hair falls loose from your hood. You tuck it back in place and stand tall. Guests arrive in steady waves. A farmer in dusty boots leads his daughter by the hand. A merchant in city finery tends his cloak with anxious care. A scholar, his cheeks flushed from the ride, adjusts his cap and consults a folded parchment. Each new face adds to the sense that this gathering will be grand and memorable. You climb back into the saddle for the final stretch. The path winds through orchards heavy with fruit, their blossoms still fresh in spring air. The sweet perfume of apples and cherries mingles with the scent of fresh grass. Crows swoop overhead and call out their greetings. You wave up at them. They wheel away, perhaps to see for themselves what brings so many people to the manor's gates. As you crest the final hill, you see the manor spread below like a bloom. Its towers are white stone that glows in the sunlight. Flags flutter atop each turret in the breeze. The moat reflects the sky in ripples that glitter like diamonds. You feel your chest swell with pride and relief. Home is near. You descend to the gate where guards hold wide the massive oak doors. They bow as you pass through. Inside, a line of servants offers jugs of cool water and bowls of sweetbread. You take both and eat and drink gratefully. The taste of honey and soft bread reminds you of childhood festivals and summer days. You linger for a moment, savoring the sense of welcome. The courtyard teems with color. Musicians tune instruments. Jesters juggle bright balls of cloth. Tables of straw bales are draped in cloth of gold and purple. Flowers bloom in tubs of clay. Everywhere are signs of celebration. You breathe in deep, the scent of preparation carried on the wind. A herald approaches, scroll in hand. He unfurls it and reads your name. He bows to you and directs you toward the guest hall. You follow him through a corridor, lined with torches and tapestries depicting scenes of chivalry and romance. You feel part of a story as old as the stones beneath your feet. Finally, you stand before the great doors of the hall. They swing open to reveal long tables set with polished pewter and gleaming goblets. Platters of fruit and cheese, of spiced meats and sweet pastries fill every surface. You step through the threshold with gratitude in your heart. A hand rests lightly on your shoulder. You turn to see the chamberlain, smiling. He offers you a bow and welcomes you once more. Your journey is complete. You have answered the summons. You have come in time. You step forward into the warm glow of torchlight. The day's heralds ring their bells one more time, and the feast is ready to begin. You find your place at the table and sit. The moment is perfect. The dawn of preparation leads to this, a gathering of friends and family, of laughter and promises. And as you taste the first course, you know that every mile, every early hour, every click of horse's hoof was worth the reward of this bright morning. The road from the east winds through gentle hills dotted with hawthorn and elder. A small procession makes its way along the dusty lane. The bride's uncle rides at its head, clutching the reins of a fine mare. Behind him a covered wagon creaks, laden with gifts wrapped in cloth and baskets of fresh eggs. Two of the bride's cousins sit on the wooden bench beside the driver. They chatter softly about the feast to come. One cousin fusses with her bonnet, while the other practices curtsies in the back of the wagon. As the sun climbs higher, the fields on either side ripple in a breeze that carries the scent of wildflowers and cut hay. A lone hawk circles overhead. You watch its shadow glide across the ground, and you think of the day's promise. Soon these travelers will step into the courtyard of the manor and find every expectation fulfilled. Further down the road, another group approaches on foot. A pair of sisters walk side by side, their skirts brushing the tall grass. Each carries a small chest of embroidered linens and a jar of scented oil. One sister hums a simple tune taught to her by her mother. The other weaves daisies into her hair as they pass a patch of meadow buttercups. They pause at a bubbling spring to fill their leather flasks. They dip their hands into the cool water, let it pool on their tongues, and smile at each other. Behind them, tramps and tinkerers travel more slowly. They greet the sisters with nods and quiet farewells. A tinker secures his bundle of copper pans to his pack. His dog trots at his heel. He pulls out a small hammer and rings a gentle note on one pan, listening for its tone. It rings true, and he wipes his brow before hanging the pan back on his bundle. His trade will come to the manor too. Every pan will find its price in ale or in welcome. Higher on the hill, a carriage rattles into view. Its wheels beat a steady tattoo on the road. 4 horses strain at their collars as the driver crackles whip and calls out directions. The carriage door bears the coat of arms of a distant noble, peacocks and lions intertwine in gold on a field of sapphire. Inside the carriage, a noblewoman peers out through slitted windows, her veil half drawn. A maid stands behind her, offering a cup of cold water sweetened with honey. The noblewoman tips the cup to her lips and closes her eyes at the cool comfort. She will soon join the honored guests at the manor. Dust rises behind the carriage and forms a cloud that drifts across the road. You step aside on the verge and let the procession pass. The horses nicker once in greeting. The carriage slows, and the driver tips his hat in thanks before cracking his whip and moving on. You watch the dust settle again, leaving nothing but the scent of leather and straw. A little farther on the path narrows beneath ancient oaks. Their branches meet overhead, forming a living tunnel of rustling leaves. The light here is soft and green as a promise. Couples pause beneath the canopy to walk hand in hand, exchanging quiet words. A pair of young men break from the group to climb the low branches. They cling to the bark as they wave to their friends. One of them calls back that marriage is not all vows and robes. It is also laughter and daring. You smile at their bravado, knowing that tomorrow the laughter will fill the great hall and the daring will be celebrated with dance steps and song. At the edge of the forest, you find a ford where travelers must cross the stream. A plank spans the water, slick with moss and slippery at the ends. You halt a party of merchants as they approach. Silver and spices jostle in their packs. They count their coins carefully before stepping onto the plank. The eldest merchant goes first, testing each board. When he reaches the far bank, he bows to his companions and waves for them to follow. All make the passage unscathed. They gather their goods quickly and press on toward the manor, eager not to miss a bite of the wedding feast. The final stretch climbs a gentle rise. At the top, the manor appears once more majestic under the bright midday sun. Flags snap in the breeze. The towers gleam. The drawbridge stands lowered to welcome all who come by hoof or by foot. A messenger in green and silver gallops down the rise to meet each party. He blows a horn of polished copper, its sound clear as a bell. He greets each traveler by name and invites them across the bridge to register with the steward. Each guest hands over a parchment sealed with wax. The steward checks the scroll and offers a curt nod. The courtyard teems with movement. Horses are led away to stalls. Wagons are unloaded of their gifts. Servants carry trays of spiced wine and platters of almonds to weary travelers. You see the bride's uncle stepping from his mare, embracing old friends who had ridden ahead. The sisters from the meadow walk toward the steward, their eyes shining with excitement. The tinker unloads his pans and immediately begins to display their tone to curious children. The noblewoman steps from her carriage, her maid adjusting her veil. She is met by a lady of the house who curtsies deeply before offering her a jeweled pin to fasten the lady's mantle. You step forward to greet each new arrival. Your cloak of green feels comfortable on your shoulders. You clasp hands, offer bows, and guide them toward the great doors of the hall. Every smile is genuine. Every nod carries the warmth of welcome. You feel pride for your lord and lady's generosity. You feel gratitude that so many have answered the call. A boy approaches you with a wooden bucket of water. He dips a linen cloth and hands it to you. You wipe your face and hands. The cool drops run down your arms. You look around at the crowd and realize something wonderful. This gathering is more than a wedding. It is a reunion of communities. It is a festival of shared lives and stories, woven together by a single promise of union. The steward announces that the feast will begin in 3/4 of an hour. You escort the group toward a shaded terrace where benches and cushions await. You pour wine from clay jugs into cups etched with the manor's emblem. You offer bread to each guest, fresh from the ovens and warm to the touch. You feel the crumb give beneath your fingers, and you taste its sweetness on your tongue. As you settle each guest onto the benches, a hush falls over the courtyard. The trumpets sound again, this time in triumph and celebration. The manor's musicians take their places on a raised platform. A harpist strums the opening chord. Shawms and drums join in, weaving a melody that rises on the air like birdsong. You step back and watch the scene unfold. Guests lean forward to speak with neighbors. Children point in delight at the musicians. Servants move with practiced grace, carrying fresh platters of figs and cheese. The warmth of the day, the scent of flowers, the glow of anticipation, all combine to create a moment of pure joy. You close your eyes for a moment and inhale deeply. The journey has been long. The road has tested every traveler, but now all paths converge here. Now every weary foot, every rattling cartwheel, every anxious heartbeat finds its reward. You open your eyes. The first guest takes a sip of wine and raises his cup in salute. A lady beside him claps in delight. The air fills with laughter and conversation. The wedding feast has begun. You slip behind the heavy curtain of the bridal chamber, and the world of lutes and laughter falls away. Inside the room, rushes lie thick on the floor, still damp from the dawn's dew. A copper brazier crackles with scented coals. Rose petals scatter their pink confetti across the wooden bench and the carved chest that holds the bride's finest silks. You close the curtain and step forward, heart pounding with the thrill of what is to come. Aunts and cousins gather around you. They wear gowns of pastel linen and carry baskets of ribbons and small bottles of scented oil. One aunt lifts a ribbon of pale blue and holds it against your hair. She murmurs that blue brings calm and faithfulness. You allow her to tuck the ribbon into your braid. The thread slides through your fingers as it winds around each strand of hair, binding them with a promise. Another cousin picks up a small vessel of lavender oil. The glass is cool in her hand. She pours a few drops into her palm and warms the oil between her hands. Then she strokes your temples and the nape of your neck. The lavender scent rises, soft and sweet, and you feel your shoulders loosen. Your breath comes easier with each slow stroke. Nearby, a servant woman lifts a copper pitcher filled with water scented with rosemary sprigs. She pours the water into a wooden tub set upon a low stool. The water steams in the cool air, and the rosemary scent sharpens your senses. A maid pulls open the chest of linen cloth. She unfolds a length of hemp cloth, rinses it in the tub, and drapes it across the brazier's edge. Its fibers heat gently, ready to wrap you when the bath is over. Your mother watches from a chair by the window. Her eyes glisten with pride and something like longing. She remembers the day you were born and the day you first walked. Today she watches you take another step into a new life. She reaches into her bodice and pulls out a small cloth pouch. She hands it to you with a quiet word. "Rosemary for memory, my child." You press the pouch to your chest and let the scent mingle with lavender and rose. Aunts begin the braiding ceremony. Each braid is woven with purpose. One braid is for fertility, another braid is for loyalty, a third braid is for joy. You sit on a low stool as they gather your hair in sections. Their fingers move deftly, crossing one length over another until your hair is no longer a single mass but a tapestry of intent. You feel each braid tighten your scalp just enough to remind you of promise and purpose. A ribbon of white linen winds through the braid for purity. A thread of gold curls in the braid for prosperity. Each color is chosen with care, and as the final ribbon is tied, you lift your hand to smooth the hair away from your face. You glimpse your reflection in a polished basin. Your eyes gleam under the weight of flowers and ribbons. At your side, the jars of oils line a small table. One holds rosewater infused with petals. Another holds oil steeped with almond kernels for smooth skin. A third holds honey mixed with crushed mint for a cooling rinse. A maid dips a cloth into the honey mint mixture and presses it to your cheeks. The coolness stings pleasantly. The honey leaves a faint sweetness on your lips. The servant ladles water over your arms and shoulders. Each drop strikes your skin like a soft caress. The steam swirls around you, and you close your eyes to savor the warmth. A maid washes your feet in the perfumed water, massaging each toe and smoothing the rough skin from your heels. You lean back against a pile of embroidered cushions and let yourself drift with the sensations. A cousin brings in a plate of linen sachets filled with dried rose petals and lavender buds. She hands one to you and whispers that you should keep it under your pillow tonight. You sniff the sachet and feel a gentle calm wash over you. The lavender soothes your mind. The rose summons hope. Your hair is now perfectly braided and scented. Your skin glistens from the bath. You stand and walk to the chest of gowns. The maid lifts the lid and reveals layers of silk and velvet. Each gown is lined with soft linen and decorated with embroidery depicting pomegranates and ivy. One gown is pale green, trimmed with pearls and mother-of-pearl buttons. Another is ivory with gold thread that glints in the candlelight. Your mother holds out the green gown. She fastens the buttons with careful fingers. As you step into the skirt, you feel the fabric swirl around your knees. The bodice fits snugly over your torso. A silk sash wraps around your waist and ties in the back. Your mother adjusts the collar and smooths the sleeves. She kisses your cheek and says you make her heart swell. A maid fastens a veil of fine gauze to your wreath of fresh flowers. The veil falls softly over your shoulders. You lift it for a moment and see your reflection again. The bride you see in the mirror is barely recognizable. Gone is the girl who woke before dawn to churn butter and fetch water. In her place stands a woman ready to embark on a new path. The final ritual is the anointing. Your father steps forward with a small vial of oil blessed by the local priest. He dips his finger and traces a sign of blessing on your forehead. He whispers a prayer for protection and happiness. You close your eyes and feel the warmth of his hand. The oil drips slowly, leaving a faint shimmer. Family women gather around and place hands on your shoulders. They sing a quiet blessing in your native tongue. The melody rises and falls like the breath of the earth. You feel their love in every note. The warmth of their hands and their voices binds you to your past even as you step toward your future. And then it is done. The coal in the brazier still glows. The tub of scented water cools. The ribbons lie waiting to be untied. You stand in the center of the room, the heart of every blessing you have ever received. You draw a deep breath and exhale slowly. Outside the corridor is alive with trumpets. The time for the procession approaches. You allow yourself one final moment of quiet. You touch each braid, each petal, each ribbon. You remember each prayer, each promise, each drop of oil. Then you walk forward. Curtains sway behind you. The chamber that held your childhood slips into memory. You step into the corridor. The echo of brass greets you. You hold your head high. You feel the power of every ritual in your bones. You are ready for the vows to come, for the journey ahead, for every dawn yet to break in a new life. The warm glow of the brazier follows you as you leave the inner chamber and step into the outer room. Cushions line the benches, and gilded mirrors lean against the walls. Servants now wait to finish the final touches. You settle onto one of the benches and feel your heart flutter. A maid kneels before you, holding a basket of fresh flowers. She lifts a stem of orange blossom and tucks it into the curve of your braid. Its petals are soft as feathers and sweet as promise. A silk cord is tied around the bouquet to keep it in place. Each blossom symbolizes fertility and good fortune. You lift your hand to touch them and feel their cool softness. At the far side of the room, a gentlewoman approaches, carrying a silver ewer and basin. The ewer pours lavender water over your hands. You close your eyes at the cool rinse. When she finishes, she offers you a linen towel embroidered with tiny roses. You dry your hands carefully, mindful that they will soon hold rings, and turn the pages of your marriage vows. Next, the gentlewoman presents a small box of kohl. You open it to find a dark powder and a delicate brush carved from ebony. Gently, she lines your eyelids with its smoky hue. Your eyes feel framed and regal. You stare at your reflection. The mirror captures your wide eyes and the braid crowned with blossoms. The brushstrokes leave a faint black tracer that deepens your gaze. A cousin brings in a comb carved from ivory. It is thin and delicate, with teeth fine as a spider's web. She runs it slowly through the length of your braid, smoothing stray hairs and giving shape to each ribbon strand. You feel the ivory teeth catch briefly on a ribbon knot, then glide free. You nod in gratitude, and she offers you a shy smile. From a low table, a servant hands you a small fan of peacock feathers. You lift it and feel the gentle arc of each plume. Your aunt whispers that the feathers ward off envy and ill will. You wave the fan once, not to cool yourself but to acknowledge her blessing. Nearby, a jeweler arranges a set of simple gold clasps, each inlaid with a tiny garnet. He fastens them on your sleeves, one by one, attaching them to the turned-back cuffs of your gown. They click softly into place and catch the torchlight. He moves to the neckline and secures the final clasp at your throat. You feel the weight of the gold settle like a promise against your skin. As his work finishes, the priest enters the chamber. He wears simple robes of white linen and carries a book bound in leather. He bows his head to you and raises a single finger in blessing. You bow in return. He kneels before you and opens his book. His voice is low, rich with resonance as he intones prayers of protection and love. You listen as he speaks of charity, fidelity, and compassion. You let each word sink in, feeling their warmth settle around you. When he finishes the blessing, he steps back and produces a small amulet carved of wood. It bears the sign of the saint who watches over marriages. He fastens it around your neck, on a cord of braided silk. You lift the amulet and press it to your chest. It feels cool and strong. You feel a pulse of reassurance. Your family women gather for the final ritual. They form a circle around you and join hands. Hands clasp your shoulders, your arms, your waist. Their warm flesh speaks of lineage and love. They chant in softly harmonized voices. Each chant rises and falls like waves. You close your eyes and let their song carry you away. Their voices weave a tapestry of hope and strength. The singing ends with a flourish. You open your eyes to find each woman placing a hand on your head, your shoulders, your heart. Their eyes glint with tears of joy. You feel their hearts beat in time with yours. You feel every knot of ribbon and stitch in your gown remind you of every promise you have given and every vow you will speak. In the corner, a maid stands with a small wooden chest. She lifts the lid and reveals fresh linen shifts embroidered with tiny hearts. She extracts two and offers them to you. You take one and step from the bench. You shed the damp shift you wore in your bath and pull on the new linen. Its fibers are crisp and clean. The comfort of fresh cloth against your skin feels like a rebirth. Your mother steps forward with a final gift. She holds a small cloth bag tied with golden cord. She places it in your hand and whispers for you to keep it close. Inside, you feel a handful of seeds. They are from the family orchard and carry the promise of growth and harvest. You slip the bag into your gown's belt pouch. At last, the last of the servants withdraws. Only your family, women, and the priest remain. You stand alone in the center of the chamber, the center of a journey that began long ago. You breathe in the scent of oil and flower and rosewater. You breathe out the anticipation of what is to come. Aunts step away with gentle bows. Cousins curtsy and smile, and let the door close behind them. The chamber grows quiet. A single torch guttering in its iron cage is the only sound besides your own heartbeat. You touch the clasp at your throat. You feel the silver ewer's basin still warm in your mind. You remember the scent of rosemary and lavender. You remember every braid and every ribbon, every prayer and every blessing. Now the bridal chamber stands empty of everything but memory and promise. You step forward, toward the curtain that leads to the corridor. A gentle hand grips yours. You turn to see the priest nod. His eyes are kind. He says one last blessing. You bow your head. You rise again with resolve. Together, you hold the curtain aside. You step across the threshold into the bright corridor. Torches line its walls. Flower petals carpet the floor. Music drifts from the hall ahead. Your chamber rituals are complete. The next moment, you will stand before your Lord, your family, and your future. You draw a breath and let it go. You are ready. You step out of the manor doors, just as the first torch flickers to life. A servant carries it high, its flame dancing against the dark stone walls. You feel the cool night air on your face. A hush falls over the assembled guests, broken only by the distant sound of a shawm's low lament. Behind you, the courtyard fades. Before you stretches the path of pale cobblestones that leads to the churchyard. Along its edges, torchbearers stand at intervals, each flame held in an iron cage. The torches glow like fireflies caught in lanterns. Their light paints the path in shifting gold and shadow. You see the rose petals scattered thickly before you, petals as soft as velvet, pale and red, swirling in the breeze. Minstrels stand at the head of the line, their shawms carved of dark wood. Each musician raises his instrument and begins a measured tune. The notes waver through the night, sad yet hopeful. They carry the breath of autumn fields and first frost mornings. The melody guides your steps, slowing your heart just enough to savor this moment. You emerge onto the path. Bridesmaids flank you on one side, groomsmen on the other. Their faces glow in torchlight. Each step you take presses the rose petals into the soles of your shoes. A rush of fragrance rises with each footfall. You inhale deeply, tasting the sweetness of roses and the chill of stone underfoot. Guests follow behind, their cloaks brushing against the walls. You hear muffled voices offering blessings. A child calls your name, and you turn to nod, catching her shy smile in the torchlight. You lift your fan of peacock feathers in greeting, the iridescent plumes catching stray sparks of light. The path slopes gently upward. You see the church tower rise against the velvet sky. Its windows are dark, but the doorway glows with torchlight within. Ivy climbs the stone, cold and silent. A raven perches on the steeple, watching the procession with wary eyes. Minstrels fall silent as you approach. A single torchbearer steps forward and tilts his flame toward the church doors. The ancient wood creaks as it opens. You step across the threshold, rose petals giving way to smooth flagstones. The air inside is cool and hushed. Incense drifts from the altar, soft clouds that scent the air with frankincense and myrrh. Candles flicker on stands of iron and brass. Their reflections dance on the polished stone flags. Shadows stretch toward you as you make your way down the nave. The minstrels resume, their shawms rising in a final refrain. Each note echoes off the arched ceiling like a promise. You approach the altar rail. The priest stands between two candelabras, his robes glowing silver in the candlelight. He greets you with a nod. You pause beneath the chancel window where stained glass gleams with colors in the torch's glow. You see scenes of saints and angels gazing down, watchful and kind. Bridesmaids take their places to your left, groomsmen to your right. The first torchbearer extinguishes his flame and steps into the shadows. One by one, the torches are laid in wall sconces. The light softens. The only brightness comes from the candles and the moonlight through high windows. You kneel on the red velvet cushion before the priest. He opens his ancient book and begins in Latin the prayers of blessing. The words are a gentle wash over you. Each syllable flows with warmth and authority. You bow your head in reverence and promise. Your heart pounds as the priest lifts his hand and sprinkles holy water. A drop lands on your shoulder, and you shiver. You feel every stitch of your gown, every ribbon of your braid, every petal of your crown. You are the center of all blessings. The chanting ends. A hush follows. Then the priest invites you to rise. You stand and face the congregation. Guests lean forward in their seats. You see glowing eyes, hopeful and bright. A murmur of awe ripples through them at the sight of you in your bridal finery. The priest invites your groom forward. He steps from the shadows, cloak swirling. He wears his finest tunic of deep burgundy. A cloak of sable rests on his shoulders. His boots are polished. He bows to you, and you curtsy, remembering every lesson learned in the bridal chamber. He takes your hand and you feel the warmth of his palm. The priest speaks again, this time of vows and rings. 2 rings lie on a small velvet cushion. The gold glints like captured sunlight. Your groom lifts the first ring and slides it onto your finger. The silence is perfect. You feel the weight of the ring and know that each day it will remind you of this night. You lift your hand. He takes the second ring and presses it onto his finger. He smiles, and you smile back. Candlelight flickers across his face. You see courage and kindness there. You see home. The priest pronounces you married. Guests rise and murmur blessings. Torchlight washes through the church in gentle arcs. Music swells again. The shawms return with rejoicing. You and your groom turn and walk down the aisle together. Rose petals left behind catch in your train, nodding like little farewells. As you step back into the cool night air, torchbearers greet you with renewed flames. The path is lit in a circle of gold. Bridesmaids scatter fresh petals ahead for your return to the manor. Groomsmen carry lanterns to light your way. You pause at the head of the path and look back at the church. Its ancient stones stand silent guard. The bells cease their tolling. The hush of the night returns, but it is changed now. It carries the echo of vows and the rhythm of a new union. You take your husband's arm and begin the procession home. Minstrels march ahead, their shawms playing a gentle welcome. Guests follow, candlelight dancing on their faces. The manor's towers rise behind you, its windows glowing like beacons of warmth. The bride walks on rose petals and hope. The torches flicker, the shawms sing. You feel the weight of every promise, every blessing, every step. And in your heart you know the night's memory will burn bright for years to come. After the final note of the shawms fades into the night, the torches flare brighter as if in celebration. You step from the heavy church doors into the courtyard once more. The air is cool but holds the warmth of candles and of hearts newly joined. Beside you, your groom slips an arm around your waist and grins. You feel every ribbon in your hair and every stitch in your gown settle into place for the walk home. The path back is lined with torch bearers, whose flames cast flickering shadows on the stone walls. Guests fall into two lines on either side of the route. Hand in hand, they step softly on the rose petals. Each petal presses against your gown and clings to the velvet hem like a whisper of promise. The music begins again, but this time it is a lullaby of joy. Minstrels carry shawms and drums that tap a gentle pulse, guiding your return. You raise your face to the stars. The sky is clear tonight. A crescent moon glows above the manor towers. You breathe in the scent of night-blooming flowers and distant fields. You feel the hush between one torch and the next. You sense every footstep behind you and before you. You know each guest carries a wish for your happiness. A child steps forward, offering you a small lantern decorated with painted flowers. Its glass panes glow softly. You take it with a smile. The light reflects in your eyes. When the child curtsies and retreats, you hold the lantern aloft so it may guide you through the shadowed corridor between the church and the manor gate. As you walk, you notice the flicker of surprise in your mother's eyes when you pass her. She stands by the gate with your father. They have just arrived to meet you at the return. Your father lifts his cap in salute. His face is proud and gentle. Your mother places a hand on his arm and smiles as if this moment is her own joy. You bow deeply to them both. Your groom steps forward to meet them and offers his hand in greeting. Your uncle and aunt stand nearby, their faces flush from the cold night air. Your cousins cluster around them. They clap softly and cheer. A hush of laughter ripples through the crowd, and then silence again. You feel the embrace of family around you, and the love and goodwill of friends and neighbors who have come to witness your first steps as a married couple. The manor doors open wide before you. Torches glow in sconces, flanking the entrance. The steps are lined with petals once more. You step inside the hall, and the warmth of the hearth greets you like a faithful friend. The guests move aside to let you pass. You feel their joy like an embrace. Inside the hall, a low table holds goblets of spiced wine and bowls of sweetmeats. A servant hands you a goblet. The wine is warm on your lips and tastes of clove and cinnamon. You sip it slowly. Behind you, the guests follow and greet each other in hushed voices of congratulations. The room glitters with candlelight on polished pewter platters. A minnow of musicians begins a dance tune, a stately measure meant for couples. Your groom offers his hand. You take it. You step onto the floor and follow the steps taught to you in the early hours of dawn. Your feet find the rhythm as you sway beneath the arch of boughs hung with ribbons and flowers. Your gown sweeps the floor and swirls with the movement. Around you, other couples join in. The circle grows wider. The drum beats steady. Shawms trill a melody of delight. You smile at your guests, at your family, at your friends. You feel the pulse of the moment in your chest. After the dance, you step aside to drink from a second goblet. A maid offers you a bite of honey cake. It is rich and spiced. You break off a piece with your fingers and taste its sweetness. You look around the hall. It is a tapestry of life, faces glowing with candlelight and laughter, gowns shimmering with every twirl, torches flickering like captured dawn. Your eyes settle on the long table by the hearth, platters of roasted duck, of glazed vegetables, of crusty breads, a whole boiled boar with an apple in its mouth, bowls of berries preserved in honey. The feast awaits. A hush falls as the steward steps onto a low platform. He raises his hand for silence. He welcomes your guests, praises the families, and invites the first course to be served. Servants bustle forward with trays of soup. The hall fills with the murmur of spoons and gratitude. You sit beside your groom. Your closest friends flank you both. You offer each other a taste of the soup. You savor its warmth and the flavor of root vegetables simmered in broth and herbs. A toast is made in your honor. Wine is lifted high. Laughter ripples through the hall. You raise your goblet to the crowd, your eyes meeting those who have supported you. You see tears in some eyes. You return the toast with pride and gratitude. The next course follows swiftly. Platters of roasted poultry and tender meats glide along the tables. Guests help themselves under the careful supervision of servers. You taste a slice of spiced venison, and it melts on your tongue. The flavors mingle with the memory of the path you walked. The scent of torch, smoke, and rose petals lingers on your clothes. Between courses, a minstrel takes center stage. He sings a ballad of love and loyalty. His voice rings clear. His words speak of hearth and home and the strength found in unity. You feel the power of the melody. You listen as the guests lean forward, enraptured. When the song ends, you clap and join in the applause. A child leaps onto a bench and leads everyone in a call for the bride and groom. You stand and hold your groom's hand. He lifts your joined hands high above your heads. A cheer rises like a wave. You smile and bow, cheeks flushed with happiness. The final course is a sweet array of tarts and fruits and spiced nuts. You share a fig glazed in honey with your groom. You feed it to him, and he offers you a bite of a plum. The sweetness tastes of promise and new beginnings. At last the hour grows late. Guests drift from the tables toward cozy corners warmed by the hearth. You step outside to breathe the cool night air. The torches still burn along the path back to the church, but this night is yours alone. Your groom joins you, wrapping an arm around you. Together you walk slowly down the petal-strewn path and remember every word, every step, every blessing of this night. You kneel before the stone altar, breath steadying as the priest raises his hands. The flicker of candlelight dances across the carved faces of saints etched into the walls. A hush falls over the gathered congregation. You feel the weight of every eye upon you, and your heart swells with anticipation. The priest opens his book of prayers. His voice is low and measured as he intones the first Latin blessing, Per omnia saecula saeculorum. He bows his head briefly and then looks up at you. His words echo in the vaulted ceiling like distant bells. You bow your head in response, letting the ancient words wrap around you like a cloak of grace. Your groom stands beside you, his cloak of deep burgundy resting across strong shoulders. His hand finds yours beneath the altar rail. You feel the warmth of his palm. You glance at him and see something fierce and tender in his eyes. He nods once, a silent vow to face whatever comes with you. The priest turns a page and begins the oath of fidelity. He speaks of love that shall endure through joy and sorrow, through health and sickness, through fortune and misfortune. You listen as each phrase settles in your mind. You picture the years to come, the first dawn you will share, the first storm you will weather together. Then the priest invites your groom to speak his vow in the common tongue. He places a hand on your groom's shoulder. The man draws a deep breath and steps forward. You rise with him, the silk of your gown whispering around your ankles. You meet his gaze and hold it. I, groom's name, take you, bride's name, to be my wedded wife, to have and to hold from this day forward, for better, for worse, for richer, for poorer, in sickness and in health, to love and to cherish until death parts us. His voice wavers once on the final words, but he draws resolve from your steady smile. You feel tears at the corners of your eyes. You fight them back with a breath. The priest offers you the chance to speak your vow next. You step forward, kneeling once more before the altar. You let your voice ring out firmly. I, bride's name, take you, groom's name, to be my wedded husband, to have and to hold from this day forward, for better, for worse, for richer, for poorer, in sickness and in health, to love and to honor until death parts us. You feel the congregation stir as you finish. A soft murmur of delight drifts through the hall. You rise and find your groom's hand again. Your fingers intertwine. The priest lifts a small velvet cushion from beside the altar. Upon it lie 2 gold hoops, simple bands that gleam like molten sunlight. He lifts the first hoop and holds it high. Mihi tradis, recipiam, servabo et usurperabo. You do not understand every word of the Latin, but you feel its meaning in the priest's tone. The hoop symbolizes unity and eternity. You hold out your left hand, finger trembling slightly in the hush. Your groom smiles and grasps the ring. He slips it onto your finger with gentle care. You feel its cool weight slide over skin and settle against your palm. A small gasp escapes you as the metal meets your flesh. You squeeze his hand in thanks. The hoop glows in the candlelight. He places the second ring on his own finger. You feel the tremor of breath you have reserved for this moment. You slip the gold onto his finger and watch his eyes light at the contact. The ring fits him snugly, a perfect circle around his life. The priest lifts his hands once more. His voice rises in blessing and praise. Benedictio tua super nos. He sprinkles holy water from a silver shell, the drops catching in the candlelight like stars. You bow your heads as the water falls, feeling blessed and grounded in the knowledge that this union is sacred. Candles flare in their sconces as guests rise to their feet. A soft murmur of blessing and applause fills the hall. You and your groom turn to face your friends and family. You share a look that says everything cannot be contained in words. His cloak brushes yours as you walk side by side back down the aisle. Minstrels begin a gentle tune on shawms and lutes. Guests depart their seats and line the path behind you. You step onto the aisle strewn with rose petals once more. Each step you take fills the hall with the crisp snap of silk and leather. Flower girls toss petals in wide arcs. Their laughter rings clear and bright. You reach the dais. The priest steps aside, motioning you and your groom to join each other's right hands. You cradle his hand in both of yours. The hall grows quiet once more. You feel the warmth of the altar behind you and the cool scent of incense rising. Behold now, the priest intones, the man and wife become one flesh. What therefore God hath joined together, let no man put asunder. You bow your heads and then lift them together. He turns to face the congregation and extends his hands in blessing. The congregation raises their hands in response. You feel the radiance of every wholehearted wish for your happiness. A hush lingers before it breaks into joyous singing. The minstrels strike a flourish on shawms and drums. The hall echoes with delight. Guests crown you both with cheers and blessings. You and your groom smile and embrace. The priest steps back to allow the first dance. You and your groom share a slow dance on the dais, moving in gentle circles beneath the flicker of torches. Your gown sweeps the floor in a soft whisper. His cloak brushes the backs of the bridesmaids. Your voices remain silent, but your steps speak of promise and devotion. Guests join the circle. The hall fills with movement and joy. Garlands sway, shawms trill, hearts swell. You feel every ribbon, every whispered prayer from the bridal chamber come alive in this single dance. And as you spin beneath the torchlight, the gold hoops gleaming on your fingers, you know that from this day forward, every sunrise will carry the memory of these vows and the weight of these blessed rings, binding you and your husband in love forevermore. The applause swells as you finish your first steps in marriage. Torches flare higher, their golden light flickering across grateful faces. The minstrels shift from shawms to a lively drumbeat. You and your husband descend the dais together, pausing to offer bows to the priest and to your parents. Your mother's eyes glisten with tears. Your father places his hand on your husband's shoulder and gives a small bow of respect. You feel the warmth of family and faith at your back as you step through the aisle of rose petals once more. Outside the church doors, the night air greets you like a hush after a storm. The torches lining the stone path blaze bright, and guests fall into two lines to form an honor guard of light. You and your husband walk hand in hand beneath their glow. Each torchbearer nods and murmurs congratulations. The scent of burning wood mingles with night air. You breathe deeply, tasting the promise of the feast ahead. A pair of children stand near the gate holding a small wooden bowl of rice mixed with petals. They step forward and gently toss handfuls over you as you pass. Rice for fertility, petals for joy. The soft thuds on your cloak and gown come like a blessing. You smile at the children and answer with a gentle nod. They beam with pride at their role in your wedding. Your uncle awaits with a fine mare and carriage trimmed with ribbon. You climb into the carriage slowly, making sure your gown does not catch on the edge. Your husband gives your hand a squeeze before helping you settle onto the leather seat. He climbs in beside you, careful not to crush your bouquet of fresh blooms. The driver settles onto the bench, cracks his whip over the lead horse, and you glide forward. The path back to the manor runs through a woodland, clearing bathed in moonlight. Lanterns hang from branches like captured stars. Guests line the trail on foot, holding candles or torches. Their faces appear half lit, half shadowed. Each face shines with anticipation of the feast to come. Somewhere a dog barks, and a nightingale calls in reply. You lean forward and press your hand to the carriage door. The wood is cool to the touch. A hush falls over the procession as it reaches the manor gates. The drawbridge stands lowered. Guards in bright tabards stand at attention, blades gleaming. A captain steps forward and salutes, then bows deeply to you both. The gates swing open with a deep groan of oak and iron. You roll down the carriage window and breathe in the scent of home. Inside the courtyard, the torches glow like beacons. Plum trees in blossom line the courtyard like silent witnesses. Servants move swiftly, placing benches and tables beneath arched colonnades. Tables groan under the weight of dishes and trays of wine. A servant hands your carriage a silver ewer of rosewater and a soft linen cloth. You lift the cloth to your face and inhale the sweet scent. Your carriage comes to a halt beside the grand steps. The horses lower their heads, mist rising from their flanks in the cool night. You and your husband climb down. Guests scatter to clear the way. Your uncle snaps a wooden cane against the ground in salute. You curtsy to the manor's host and hostess. They embrace you both warmly. Inside the great hall, the lights blaze. Torches flicker in wall sconces. Tapestries of triumphant hunts and noble banquets line the walls. Music pours from a gallery above, where a harper and two shawm players prepare the welcome tune. The harper plucks a chord that rings like laughter. You pause at the threshold and feel the hum of celebration. Laughter drifts through the air. The scent of roasting meats drifts up from the kitchens. A servant offers you a silver goblet filled with spiced wine. You lift it to your lips and taste honey and clove. Your husband takes your hand and leads you into the center of the hall. Guests gather around the tables set for the feast. Long boards rest on trestles covered in white linen cloth. Platters hold roast swan with grape glaze. Bowls of pottage steam. Silver platters hold honey cakes bright with almonds. Pewter goblets stand at each place. You and your husband seat yourselves at the high table, flanked by your parents and the closest of friends. A toast is called. The herald steps forward, clears his throat, and lifts his goblet. He speaks in measured tones. To the bride and groom, may your days be full of joy, your hearth always warm, and your love endure as evergreen. To health, to happiness, to prosperity. Glasses clink in a rolling wave. You taste the wine again, and feel its warmth spread through your chest. You look at your husband. He smiles and raises his cup to your lips. You touch your glass to his in a gentle salute. The feast begins. First comes the pottage. You take a spoonful. It is thick with root vegetables, barley, and fresh herbs. The flavor is earthy and rich. You close your eyes and savor the taste. Next comes the roasted meat. You cut a slice of duck breast and dip it in red currant sauce. The sweetness and tang make you laugh in delight. Between courses, a minstrel takes center stage on the dais behind the high table. He strums a gentle melody on his lute. One of the shawm players joins in with a clear, sustaining note. The hall quiets in appreciation. Then the harper's fingers dance across the strings, and the crowd breaks into applause. Servants move like a well-oiled machine. They clear pewter plates and bring fresh platters. They refill goblets. They offer sweetmeats wrapped in gold leaf. You taste a marzipan fig and smile at its sugary softness. Your mother leans across the table and whispers a blessing in your ear. Your father claps your husband on the back and nods approval. Your cousins scramble to fetch more nuts and dried cherries. Your uncle stands and offers a few words. My daughter, my son-in-law, may this feast be the first of countless joyful gatherings in your home. May your lineage flourish, and may this night be but the dawn of many happy days. He raises his goblet. The hall responds with hearty cheers. You and your husband stand and offer your thanks. Your voices join in the chorus. It feels as though every heartbeat in the hall echoes in harmony. The next course is fish from the river. A gentlewoman carves fillets and places them on plates with caper sauce. You taste the fish, tender and lightly seasoned. The flavors remind you of home rivers and childhood memories of angling with your father. Meanwhile, dancers slip through a side door to the music gallery. The harper leads with a gentle jig. Guests rise from their seats and join hands in a circle. You catch your husband's eye. He smiles and gestures for you to join. You rise and step onto the bench. He offers you his hand. You step down and join the dancers in the center. The dance is simple steps in time with the music. You follow your husband's lead, each footfall a promise renewed. The torches reflect in his eyes. He spins you once, and you laugh. The dancers circle you in celebration. The music and movement blur together in a tapestry of sound and joy. At last, the music quiets, and the dancers return to their places. The steward calls for the final course. Sweet tarts of currant and almond, spiced wine jelly, nut bread and fresh fruits arrive. You and your husband share a bite of tart. Its crunch and sweetness linger. Slowly, laughter and conversation wind down. Guests lean back in their seats, content. You feel the weight of your gown and the gold hoops on your finger as the final candle gutter dies. The last shawm trill fades into the hush of midnight. Your husband stands. He offers you his hand. Together you step from the high table and walk toward the great doors. Guests call your names in farewell. You bow and curtsy in thanks. Outside, the courtyard is cool under the moon. The torches burn low, their last embers bright as stars. You step onto the threshold. Your husband wraps his cloak around your shoulders. You inhale the scent of wood smoke and jasmine from the vines on the walls. In that moment, as the manor sleeps behind you and the stars stand witness overhead, you feel the weight and wonder of all you have vowed and all you have promised. The night air carries a final echo of laughter and music. You step forward into your new life, hand in hand, heart by heart, ready to walk rose-petal paths under torchlit skies for every dawn to come. You step back from the high table as the steward raises his voice above the fading laughter. He holds aloft a large loaf of bread, its crust dark and crackling. Next to him sits a small silver dish of coarse salt, each crystal shining like a jewel in the torchlight. He lifts the loaf in both hands and calls for silence. All who witness this union, he begins, shall partake in the blessing of bread and salt. Let this bread symbolize plenty in your home. Let this salt bind your hearts in loyalty. A murmur of approval rises from the guests. The minstrels cease their playing. The hall grows still, except for the crackle of the hearth and the soft rustle of gowns. The steward hands the loaf to a bridesmaid near the dais. She carries it with care, walking slowly toward you and your new husband. Her steps echo on the stone floor. Behind her follow two groomsmen holding decorative knives and small wooden plates. The bridesmaid places the loaf before you on a low table draped in embroidered linen. You kneel on cushions of velvet and take in the sight of the bread. Its aroma is warm and inviting yeast, and wheat mingled with the glow of the hearth. Your groom kneels beside you, his cloak brushed aside to reveal the deep burgundy of his tunic. The first groomsman brings forward the knife, its blade silver and gleaming. He holds it respectfully as he slices a generous wedge from the loaf. The crumb is soft and springy. You reach out and break the wedge in half. One part you offer to your groom. He takes it and presses it to your lips as a gesture of trust and sharing. You taste the bread. It is rich with flavor, warm in your mouth. You feel the grain beneath your teeth, the faint sweetness of honey in the crust. And you know this day has been baked with care and love. The bridesmaid pours salt from the silver dish onto her palm. The crystals catch the torchlight. She brings them forward and holds them over your hands. You extend your palms, and she sprinkles the grains into your open hands. A few slip between your fingers. You lift the salt and touch it to your lips. The sharp tang awakens your senses. It is the taste of the earth, of sea winds carried inland, of sustenance offered and received. Your groom raises his hands to receive his portion of salt. He tastes it and looks at you with steady eyes. The salt on his tongue is a pledge that his loyalty to you will be as pure and true as these crystals. The steward's voice rises again in blessing. As bread nourishes the body, may it nourish your bond. As salt preserves and protects, may it preserve your loyalty to each other. Behind you, the guests begin their own sharing. Each couple steps forward to break bread from the loaf and sprinkle salt over one another's hands. You watch as fathers bless daughters, friends bless friends, neighbors bless neighbors. Each act is the same but entirely unique in its warmth and grace. A mother offers bread and salt to her son and new daughter-in-law. He lifts the bread as if it were a crown. She tastes the salt and bows her head in solemn gratitude. An elder couple, married more than 50 years, step to the table together. They break bread side by side and share a pinch of salt without words. A child holds a small plate to his lips after a gentlewoman sprinkles salt for him. His eyes shine as he tastes it, and then runs to join the dancing circle. You rise and take your groom's hand. The loaf now rests on the low table, but its symbolism remains. You step aside to let the next couple forward. Your groom stands and bows. He summons his best man to continue the procession. You watch the line form as each guest waits patiently for their turn. The hall feels alive with connection. Bread and salt turn strangers into friends and friends into family. You look around at the faces lit by torchlight. There is joy, respect, even tears of gratitude. You remember each invitation sent weeks ago, each name written in the journal, each guest's promise to attend. You feel the full circle of community around you. After the last guest has shared in the blessing, the steward lifts the loaf once more. He calls for a final toast, to bread and salt to guide your days, to plenty and loyalty, to love that endures beyond all season. Glasses lift, and wine sloshes gently in goblets. You and your groom raise your hands together. The hall answers in unified cheer. At the hearth, the first embers glow with renewed life. The loaf and salt remain on the table as a testament to the day's blessings. You kneel once more before the steward and bow your heads. You feel the heat of the embers on your cheeks. Your groom brings his hand to yours. You take a piece of bread from the table and feed it to him. He smiles as he chews slowly. You taste a pinch of salt in the air and press it to his palm in return. A bridesmaid steps forward and produces a second loaf. It is smaller and sweet, made with honey and currants for a final treat. She slices it into pieces and offers them to you both. You accept a slice and taste its sweetness on your tongue. You close your eyes for a moment, letting the golden sweetness fill you. Your groom tastes his slice and nods in approval. The steward invites you to rise and return to the high table. You and your groom stand, hands still entwined. The guests clap once more in blessing. Music begins again, gentle and welcoming. The shawms play a lighter tune, inviting smiles and movement. You follow your husband back to your place. The final ritual complete, you watch as the servants clear the table of bread and salt. The hearth continues to crackle. The night stretches before you, full of promise and celebration. You sit and lean toward your groom. You share a quiet word. Your voice is low. He smiles and squeezes your hand. You taste the salt on his skin. You feel the warmth of the bread in your belly. Bread and salt have bound you in plenty and loyalty. Your vows have been spoken. Your rings shine in the torchlight. The day's rituals have woven your two lives into one tapestry. You close your eyes and breathe in the music, the scents, the warmth. You feel the heartbeat of the hall, the pulse of the feast. In this moment, you know that plenty and loyalty will guide your days, that love and community will fill your years, and that every loaf broken and every grain of salt shared will remind you of this night and the promise you made beneath torchlit skies. The last of the sweet loaf is shared, and the silver dish stands empty. A hush falls for a moment, as if the hall itself breathes in the echo of the blessing. Then life returns in gentle waves. Guests rise from their cushions and move closer to one another. Conversations flow as each couple carries a piece of bread and a pinch of salt back to their seats. You watch as you both return to the high table, hands still carrying warmth from the ceremony. A page steps forward with two small clay dishes. Each dish holds a few stalks of barley and a sprinkle of salt buried among the grain. These are the twins of bread and salt in seed form. You reach out to accept them. Your groom takes one dish and holds it before you both. The page steps back, curtsying. The steward's voice calls out once more. Let the seeds be cast. Let your house be sown in plenty and guarded in loyalty. You and your groom each take a handful of grain and salt crystals. Together you step down from the dais. Guests part to make way. You walk to the hearth, where a low stone bench awaits. You place each dish on the bench and press your hands into the seeds. You cast them out together toward the crowd. Grain and salt flutter like confetti. They tumble across cloaks and gowns, catching torchlight in midair. A child laughs as a grain lands on his shoulder. He scoops it up and offers it to a friend who tastes its rough texture and nods. Behind you, the guests follow suit. Each couple steps forward to cast seeds of barley mixed with salt. They toss them to the heavens and to the earth, symbolizing the sowing of plenty and the binding of loyalty. The hall is alive with movement. The floor becomes a tapestry of grain and salt. The mixture glitters like frost under torchlight. Some guests scoop the seeds back into their dishes and cast them again. Others laugh as handfuls slip through their fingers faster than they can hold them. A pair of children chase the stray grains, scooping them into skirts and pouches. They giggle when their pockets spill over. Your mother watches with a tear in her eye. She steps forward to cast seeds of her own. You catch her hand and press your forehead to her palm. She squeezes gently and smiles. Then she tips the barley and salt over her head. The crystals fall in a gentle storm, landing like rain upon the feast. Your father stands beside her, a small dish in hand. He tosses his seeds into the hearth fire. The grains sizzle briefly before they glow bright. He bows to you and your groom, then returns to his seat. Music swells as minstrels strike a new tune. A fiddler and a shawm join the harp. The melody quickens. Guests begin to step forward again, but this time not to cast seeds, but to dance. The steward issues a call. Dance now, that your days be quickened by joy, and your loyalty be woven through every step. Laughter erupts. Couples emerge to join the circle around the steaming hearth. You and your groom hold hands and step into the ring. The grain and salt now lie across the floor, cushioning your feet with promise. You begin the dance steps taught earlier. Your gown sways, and your groom's cloak brushes your arm. You feel the rhythm of music and grains underfoot. You smile at each guest as they pass, scattering more seeds with each turn. Between dances, guests return to cast a final handful of grain onto the clay dishes, now empty once more. They gather the seeds and gift them back to you and your groom. They line the hearth bench with little piles of barley and salt offerings of plenty and loyalty. The steward declares that the blessings are complete. He invites all to gather at the hearth for the final toast of bread and salt in seed form. He lifts a wooden chalice of spiced mead. To the house of bride's name and groom's name, may every seed you sow bear fruit. May your loyalty stand firm as the salt of the earth. Glasses raise, guests sip the sweet mead. You share a smile with your groom. You taste honey and thyme on your tongue. Around you the hall brightens with conversation and dance. A servant brings forward small purses of linen filled with the blessed seeds. Each guest receives one to carry home. You feel the weight of the pouch at your side, warm with hope. You know that each seed will remind you of today's promise. As the feast winds down, the guests depart in pairs. They bow and curtsy, offering blessings and good wishes. They carry their pouches of seeds with reverence. You stand at the threshold of the hall, guiding them to the courtyard. Torches still burn, marking the way. The final guests cross the courtyard floor, dusted with stray grains. You watch them leave, clutching their seeds. You hear each goodbye and feel the circle of community grow smaller. Your uncle steps forward. He offers 2 pouches, one for you and one for your husband. He bows deeply and says, "Plant these seeds well in your garden. Let them be the roots of your future." You accept the pouch and press it to your heart. Inside the linen you feel the grain and salt settling. You close your eyes and vow to remember this blessing in every season. In the quiet that follows, you and your husband stand beneath the arch of the manor gate. The torches flicker in the night wind. You hold each other's hands. You feel the grain and salt in your pocket, your rings on your fingers, your heart full of promise. No words are needed now. The seeds have spoken. The blessings have been cast. You lean into each other and step forward into the night. Together you will sow the seeds of plenty and loyalty, and together you will reap a harvest of joy that endures beyond any feast or ceremony. You step into the great hall, and the world opens around you like a feast for the senses. Long wooden tables line the center, piled high with platters of food that steam and glisten in the soft glow of hundreds of tallow candles. The air is warm with the heat of the hearth fires, and redolent with the scent of roasting meat, spiced wine, fresh bread, and honeyed pastries. Minstrels in colourful doublets take their places on a raised platform at one end of the hall. One plucks a harp, another draws a bow across the strings of a viol, and 2 others raise their shawms to their lips. They begin a lively tune full of rhythm and joy. The music spreads through the hall in waves. Guests look up from their places and smile at one another before turning back to their plates. A pair of serving men carries a massive spit toward the dais where you and your husband sit. The spit bears 2 swans, plucked to pristine white and trussed with sprigs of rosemary. As the swans pass, torches flare in salute. The silver platter beneath them catches the light like reflected sunrise. A cook lifts one swan from the spit and presents it to you both. You carve into the flesh with a silver knife, and the meat falls away in tender slices. The flavor is sweet and delicate, with the faint perfume of rosemary in every mouthful. You share your first slice, and your husband tastes it, nodding with delight. At the opposite table, a tray of pies arrives, their golden crusts domed and glossy. Each pie bursts open as the lid is lifted, revealing songbirds nestled inside. The birds startle, flitting briefly before settling among fragrant herbs. A hush of surprise rises through the hall. Guests lean forward, eyes bright with amusement and awe. A child claps her hands. A noblewoman laughs and dabs her cheek with a silk handkerchief. The pies are carved open, and the birds fly free, alighting on the rafters or flitting to perches along the walls. After a moment of wonder, the servants collect the birds with gentle nets and offer roasted portions of their flesh to the guests. The flavor is rich and gamey, the flesh firm yet yielding. You taste a bite and let its boldness linger on your tongue. The surprise feast brings mirth and delight to all. Meanwhile, the tables groan under the weight of hearty dishes. Bowls of rich pottage filled with root vegetables and barley sit alongside platters of venison cooked in wine and thyme. Trays hold fresh loaves of crusty bread and small baskets of sweet rolls drizzled with honey. Jugs of spiced wine are passed along the table, their deep red liquid warm with cloves and cinnamon. Guests raise goblets in repeated toasts. Laughter echoes off the stone walls and the tapestries flutter with the movement. You sip the wine, tasting the warmth of the season's berries and the strength of the vintage. You feel the convivial spirit swirl through you. At intervals, the minstrels change their tune. The harpist plucks a gentle melody that carries through the hall like a lilt of sunlight. The violist plays a soft aria that makes even the cooks pause in their work. Then the shawms sound again, calling for couples to rise and dance. You stand and offer your hand to your husband. Together you step onto the tiled floor and join the circle of dancers. Your gown sways with each step. The music and the movement blend into a single pulse of celebration. You catch glimpses of guests far and wide twirling in pairs beneath the torchlight. After the dance, a grand course is served. Trays of oysters, on half shells wrapped in seaweed, are presented for those who brave the briny taste. A platter of smoked salmon arrives accompanied by wedges of lemon. Guests pinch a slice of fish, squeeze a drop of citrus, and taste the contrast of smoke and bright tartness. Bowls of green salad tossed with fresh herbs offer a crisp counterpoint to the heavier dishes. Small jugs of oil, infused with garlic and vinegar, stand ready to dress the leaves. You take a spoonful of greens and feel their freshness awaken your palate. For those with a sweet tooth, the banquet offers an array of desserts. A fountain of mulled mead stands in the corner, its spiced liquid flowing from brass spouts into wooden tankards. Guests dip slices of sugared fruit bread into the flowing mead. Steam rises from the spiced wine, mingling with the scent of roasting apples. Small tarts filled with curd and berries sit on glass plates. Their buttery crust gives way to sweet, tangy filling. You bite into one and taste the burst of berry juice, the gentle crumble of pastry, the hint of cream beneath. Throughout the feast, the steward moves along the high table, offering you fresh wine and asking after your comfort. You smile and nod, grateful for the attentiveness. Your husband raises a glass to you, and you toast each other before returning your gaze to the banquet. The flicker of candlelight in his eyes warms you more than any hearth. As the evening deepens, the minstrels shift to a slower, more intimate tune. Couples weave among the tables. The children are invited to dance in the center. Their joyous feet stamp out a lively minuet. Guests cheer their efforts. You lean back and watch as the next generation claims the dance floor. Their laughter fills the hall like bells. At last, the final course arrives. A large platter carries almonds, dates, figs, and candied nuts. The sweetness lingers after the rich repast. Guests fill small pouches with nuts to take home. You taste a candied nut and let its crunch and sugar settle your appetite. The music falls silent as the steward calls for silence once more. He raises a silver goblet filled with mead. He offers a final blessing to health, to happiness, to the brightness of shared days and nights. May this feast be the first of many such celebrations in your home. May your table never lack for plenty, and your hearts never lack for joy. Glasses clink in a rolling chorus. The hall erupts in applause. You and your husband rise and bow to the steward. You then turn to the crowd and offer your humble thanks. Guests stand and cheer. Some throw petals onto the tables. Some call out blessings and laughter. The night winds down with gentle conversation. You return to your place at the high table, drawing your husband's hand to your lips. You taste the last drop of spiced wine. You feel the fullness of the feast. Your gown feels lighter now, in the afterglow of satisfaction. A servant offers you a final bowl of porridge made with cream and honey. You accept and sip slowly. The warmth lingers. A hush falls as the minstrels play a final lullaby. You close your eyes and feel the comfort of home. At last you slip from the high table with your husband by your side. Guests begin to drift away, still smiling, still murmuring blessings. You stand at the doorway of the great hall and watch the last torchbearers depart. The music fades. The laughter echoes once more. Together you step into the cool night air. The manor stands silent around you, its windows dark. You wrap your husband's cloak around your shoulders and press close. Your heart still swells with the joy of feasting, the warmth of community, the bond of love sealed by vows and rings and blessings. You walk down the corridor toward the chamber your bridal rites first began. The echoes of the feast follow you like a gentle wind. You breathe deeply. You taste bread and salt, wine and mead, spiced meats and honeyed sweets. You carry the memory of every dish, every toast, every dance in your heart. Tonight, the great hall sleeps. The embers in the hearth glow faintly. The tables stand bare, yet the spirit of the feast lives on in the promise you share, in the plenty you have celebrated, and the loyalty you have pledged. In each moment of laughter and joy, hand in hand you cross the hall one last time. The door to your new chamber opens before you. You step across the threshold. The soft rush of petals still clings to your gown. The scent of rosemary lingers in your hair, and as you close the door behind you, you carry with you the warmth of feasting, the glow of torchlight, and the music of a night that will feed your memory for years to come. You step into the glow of the great hall once more, as the final echoes of the feast fade into memory. The long tables have been cleared and pushed aside, opening a wide space in the center of the room. Above you hang massive wrought iron chandeliers piled high with beeswax candles. Each taper burns with a steady flame that casts a circle of golden light across the polished stone floor. The flicker of so many candles makes the air shimmer with warmth. At one end of the hall, the minstrels have retuned their instruments. A fiddler stands beside a flutist and a pair of drummers. They strike up a lively tune full of brisk bows and rolling rhythms. The melody rises like laughter and calls you in. You feel your heart quicken. You turn to your husband, who offers his hand and grins. You take it and step into the center of the hall. Other couples fall in line behind you. Bridesmaids and groomsmen join in, weaving a circle of color and motion. Women's gowns swirl like petals caught in a breeze. Men's tunics billow as they spin. The candlelight catches gold embroidery and colored silk. The air hums with the sound of moving feet and the beat of music. You practice the steps you learned at dawn. Forward and back, side to side, a quick tap and a twirl. Your gown brushes the floor, sending small clouds of rose petals swirling around your ankles. You laugh when the petals catch between your toes. Your husband cheers and spins you around again. You feel every ribbon in your hair lift as you turn. At intervals, a pair of jesters bursts into the circle. They wear motley robes, sewn in squares of red, yellow, green, and blue. They caper in between the dancers, juggling small balls of cloth. One juggler tosses 3 balls high above his head and catches them behind his back. The other juggles knives that gleam silver in the candlelight. Neither blade cuts the air without a flourish. Each catch earns gasps and applause from the dancers. You clap as they pirouette away, tossing one final ball to a child who giggles and tumbles backward into a mound of petals. Above the circle, acrobats take their places on wooden beams wedged between columns. They balance on rope lines stretched taut from wall to wall. One acrobat tiptoes across the rope, arms out at his sides like a bird. Every step is measured. The guests below hold their breath. When he reaches the other side, he bows and retreats with graceful steps. A second acrobat flips backward from one beam to another. Her cloak flies upward as she spins twice in the air. She lands in a crouch, rises with a flourish, and is showered in applause. The minstrels shift to a slower tune. A harpist plucks a gentle melody that winds through the hall. Couples form pairs again, dancing closer under the soft light. You and your husband embrace in the center. You feel the press of warmth from his cloak as his hand supports you at the small of your back. The music flows around you. You close your eyes and lean your head against his shoulder. The world contracts to the circle of light and the heartbeat of the drum. Behind you, the jesters perform a comic routine. One jester pretends to be a nobleman, bowing deeply to imaginary guests. His partner mimics a court musician, tuning an invisible lute and glancing at a non-existent music sheet. Their pantomime is so precise that guests erupt in laughter. Children run forward to watch their antics more closely. You exchange a smile with your aunt, who wipes tears of mirth from her cheeks. A horn sounds in the courtyard. A page bursts into the hall and bows deeply. He offers a wooden bowl filled with sugar candy. Guests break the candy into shards and nibble the sweet crystals. You taste a flake of rose sugar and let its sweetness linger. The jesters pause their act to sample the candy too. They offer pieces to your guests. Laughter follows each surprising burst of sweetness. The minstrels begin a faster reel. Couples form long lines for a country dance. You join the end of the line. Each dancer holds a ribbon loop tied to his neighbor's belt. The line undulates forward and backward, weaving through the hall. You follow your husband's lead. You lift your feet high as the tune demands. The line sweeps around tables and benches. You glance over your shoulder and see your friends grinning and stamping their feet in time. The line breaks apart when the tune shifts again. A group of invited dignitaries moves to the spot of honor near the hearth. The flame burns bright and golden, casting tall shadows on the walls. You and your husband step aside to let them pass. The nobility bows politely. The chamberlain and the steward follow, offering words of praise and invitation to closer dances. After the country dance, the minstrels move to a gentle lullaby. A harpist creates soft chords while the flutist whistles a melody above them. The drummers tap lightly on wooden blocks. The hall hushes to a serene hush. Guests form small clusters. Some stand in quiet conversation. Some drift toward the warmth of the hearth. You and your husband choose a pair of cushioned benches near the corner. You sit close, hands still joined. Candles gutter in their sconces. The jesters catch their breath. The acrobats rest on benches nearby. Even the children stop their games to watch the flicker of flame. You lean toward your husband and whisper your thanks. He nods, pressing his lips to your temple. The hush of the moment feels sacred. You watch as a maid brings forward 2 mugs of rosehip wine. The steward personally offers one to you and one to your husband. The rosehip wine is warming and tangy. You sip slowly, savoring the subtle hint of wild fruit. Your husband raises his mug in salute. You clink rims and drink again. Around you, the hall begins to quiet further. Guests drift toward the corridors leading back to their chambers. You see laughter fade into yawns. You see couples exchange soft farewells. You feel the night winding down, but before the hall empties completely, the minstrels strike one final chord. A playful jig begins anew. Couples rise to dance once more. You stand and offer your hand to your husband. You dance again between the fallen petals and the dimming glow of candles. The jesters join the circle for a final flourish of juggling. The acrobats perform a last somersault overhead. Laughter and music swirl one last time. As the last note fades, you and your husband share a deep bow. You exchange a tender smile. The hall descends into rest, but your heart is alight with the joy of revelry shared. You step toward the door, hand in hand. The last torch is lowered in the corridor, its flame a gentle ember now. You walk beneath the chandeliers of candlelight for the final time tonight. Outside the courtyard, the moon stands watch. Its silver glow guides you back to your chamber. Your gown still rustles from dancing. Your cheeks still glow with warmth. And as you cross the threshold into your private chamber, you carry with you the laughter, the music, the dancing, and the revelry of a night that will linger in memory long after the last candle burns low. You wake before dawn to the sound of embers crackling in the hearth. The fire glows amber in the hearth recess, its warmth pushing back the chill of the morning. You step into your father's solar and find the space prepared for your final ritual here. A long wooden bench stands before the hearth, covered in first bedding of fresh wool and linen. A low table holds a bowl of water scented with lavender and rosemary. Next to it lies a small basket of barley grain and a silver dish of salt crystals. 4 of your family elders stand nearby in simple robes of white linen. Their faces are solemn yet radiant with pride. You kneel before the hearth, your skirts pulled around your knees. Your father stands behind you, his hand resting on your shoulder. You feel the steady strength of his presence. Your mother moves to your left, holding a bowl of oil infused with myrtle and honey. Your grandmother stands to your right, her eyes moist with memories of your childhood. The village elder stands at the foot of the bench, holding an ancient prayer book bound in leather. The eldest among your aunts steps forward. She carries a small loaf of bread, baked last night in the family oven. Its crust is golden and sprinkled with seeds of anise and poppy. She lifts the loaf high before you. "Take this bread," she intones, her voice both gentle and firm. "May it nourish your days in your new home. May your table never lack for plenty." She places the loaf into your hands. You lift it and feel its warmth. You break a small piece and eat it, tasting the sweetness of honey and the hint of spice. The warmth of the bread settles in your belly like a promise. Next, your mother dips her fingers into the silver dish of salt. The crystals glint in the firelight. She sprinkles salt across your hands. "Receive this salt," she says softly. "May it bind your heart in loyalty and protect your home from bitterness and harm." You taste a grain and feel the sharp tang on your tongue. It anchors you in the moment, reminding you of the bonds you carry forward. The village elder opens his book and begins the blessing in a language older than the manor walls. His Latin words rise and fall like a gentle hymn. He prays for mercy and joy. He asks for the old gods to look kindly upon your union and guide your footsteps on the new path you will walk. Your grandmother steps forward next, holding the bowl of scented water. She pours it over your hands and wrists. The water ripples as it hits your skin. The scent of lavender and rosemary fills your senses. She presses her lips to your knuckles. "Walk forward in peace," she says. "Let your heart be calm as you face the future." You close your eyes and let the cool water run down your fingers. You taste its soft fragrance on your lips. You feel a quiet calm settle over you. Your father steps around to face you. He lifts a small branch of olive wood, carved with runes of protection. He traces the runes on your brow. Each mark feels like a gentle touch. The firelight glows in his eyes. "My daughter," he says, voice thick with emotion. "You leave this hearth but carry its memory within you. May every flame you tend burn bright with love." He steps back and places both his hands on your shoulders. You bow your head and feel the warmth of his blessing at the small of your back. Your mother joins him, standing behind your father. She reaches around and takes your hands in hers. She squeezes gently. "Go with strength and with love," she whispers. "Bring honor to our name and kindness to your new home." You look up and see her eyes shining. You feel the bond of mother to daughter stretch across the threshold of change. The aunts step forward once more. They each place a woven garland of ivy and violet on your head. The ivy stands for growth and endurance. The violet stands for modesty and faithfulness. Each garland settles gently atop your braid. You feel the cool weight of leaves and petals against your hair. A cousin brings forward a small pouch of grain and salt. She hands it to you. Within the linen, you feel the rough texture of barley and the crisp weight of salt crystals. You tuck it into your bodice. For travel, she says. For memory that sustains. You nod and press the pouch close. The eldest aunt recites a final prayer over you and your husband. She prays for the road to be clear, for the skies to be kind, for the winds to blow you gently toward each new dawn. The words rise to the rafters and settle softly across the beams. Then a hush falls. You rise to your feet. You stand before the hearth one last time in your father's home. The fire crackles and sends sparks up the chimney. The warmth presses at your cheeks. You survey the faces around you. Mother, father, grandmother, aunts, cousins, villagers. Each face holds a piece of your past. Each blessing carries a piece of your future. You feel the weight of history and the lightness of hope. Your husband appears beside you. He kneels and bows his head in respect to your family. You offer your hand to him. His palm is warm. You lift his hand to your cheek. Together, he says softly. Always together. You press your forehead to his knuckles and feel every pulse of promise in his heart. Your father steps forward and pulls aside the heavy curtain that leads to the courtyard. He gestures with pride. Go forth, he says. May your path be blessed. You turn your gaze from your family home to the candlelit manor courtyard beyond. You see the assembled guests, torchbearers, musicians, your new community awaiting you. You take a deep breath and step forward. You feel the ashes of the hearth vanish under your feet as you leave the solar. You carry the smell of smoke and the memory of warmth with you. You carry the blessings of bread and salt and oil and water. You carry the love of every hand that touched you here. Your husband follows at your side. You walk beneath torchlight toward the carriage that will take you to your new home. Grains of barley and salt buried in the folds of your gown shift with each step. You hear the distant music of shawms and drums. You hear the murmur of well wishes and the step of horse hooves on cobbles. You reach the threshold. You pause and glance back at your father's hearth. The fire still glows. It will burn until dawn. It will stand as a sign that your home remains here, even as you go. You raise your head. You lift your chin. You feel the blessings settle in your chest, like a seed ready to grow. You step into the courtyard, into the arms of your new life, carrying every farewell blessing with you as you journey forward. You stand in the great hall once more, as dawn's first pale light strikes the high windows. The long tables have been rearranged into rows of benches, leaving the center clear for the final ceremony. Your new husband stands at your side, his hand resting on your waist. The hearth fires crackle, sending warm curls of smoke toward the rafters. A murmur of greeting ripples through the assembled guests. Today they come bearing gifts and promises as tokens of friendship and respect. A page steps forward, holding a silver casket bound in gold filigree. He presents it to the steward, who bows deeply and opens the lid. Inside lie 2 cups of fine pewter, each engraved with your family's crest. The steward lifts one cup and brings it to you and your husband. You lift the other to your lips and taste the faint tang of polished metal. It is a promise that your table will never lack for hospitality and that every guest will find welcome here. Next, a nobleman in sapphire and white steps forward. He unslings a velvet pouch embroidered with silver thread. Inside are coins stamped with the visage of a distant king. He offers the pouch to your groom. The coins clink as your groom accepts them. The nobleman pledges his service in times of need. You feel the weight of the silver in your husband's hand and know that this gift will help secure your household's new beginnings. A merchant in a cloak of russet steps forward with a basket of bolts of fine cloth. The bolt nearest you gleams pale green. The merchant explains it is woven with threads of silk and wool. He bows deeply and places the bolt in your hands. You run your fingers across its surface and feel the cool smoothness. This cloth will dress your household in comfort and style. The merchant offers his son for service in your stable or fields. You nod in gratitude and promise to treat his family with kindness. A lady of the court enters next. She carries a small chest bound in dark oak. She lifts its lid to reveal jewelry of polished amber and pearls. Each piece is delicate and bright as sunlight caught in water. She offers a necklace for you and a brooch for your husband's cloak. You fasten the amber necklace around your throat. The pearls rest against your skin like a promise of beauty and grace. Your husband pins the brooch to his tunic. The lady pledges her ear and counsel in times of doubt. An elderly couple approaches hand in hand. They hold a woven basket of fresh apples and pears from their orchard. The fruit still smells of dawn and summer sun. You offer them seats and accept the basket. The apples gleam red as sunset. The pears are gold as morning light. They pledge to send bushels of fruit each season in thanks for the bond of family that now includes them. Children of the village step forward with shy bouquets of wildflowers. They bow and present sprigs of lavender and daisies. You tuck a sprig of lavender into your braid. You press a daisy to your husband's lapel. The children giggle and promise to help in the gardens when spring arrives. A knight in polished armor strides to the front. He lays a sword of fine steel at your husband's feet. The blade is etched with runes of protection. The knight pledges his blade to your service, to defend your household against any threat. Your husband kneels and accepts the sword. You stand and clasp his shoulder in silent gratitude. A scholar offers a small bound book of prayers and poems. The leather cover is stamped with a symbol of the sun and moon entwined. You open the book and run your finger down its first page. The poems speak of love that endures beyond time. The scholar promises his knowledge and skill to your children's education. In the corner, a minstrel proffers a lute of polished wood. His strings gleam in torchlight. He bows and offers his music for every feast and celebration in your home. You accept with delight, for music will be the heartbeat of your household. As each gift is laid before you, the hall grows warmer with goodwill. Guests step forward one by one and bow. They offer tokens small and large. A wheelwright brings carved wooden wheels for your carriage. A weaver offers bolts of dyed linen. A cooper presents spigots and barrels for wine and ale. A potter lays clay bowls and jugs on a tray. Each gift is accompanied by a promise of favor or service. Your husband moves among the guests, offering thanks and firm handshakes. You stand at his side, smiling and nodding. You share a look of pride and wonder at the abundance surrounding you. Each token carries a vow of loyalty, of friendship, of shared futures. When the last gift has been laid on the dais, the steward steps forward once more. He raises his hand for silence. By these tokens, he proclaims, our bonds are sealed. May your days be bright, your hearths warm, and your house full of joy. The guests raise their goblets in unison. A cheer rises like the tide. The steward invites you and your husband to join him at the high table. You lift your husband's arm and step forward together. You sit beside him and feel the breadth of responsibility settle on your shoulders. The hearth behind you roars with flame. The gifts at your feet gleam like treasures from the world beyond. A page hands you a small cup of rosewater and a linen cloth. You cleanse your hands and face. The rose scent lingers. You feel renewed. Your husband stands and raises his cup. He speaks in a clear voice. To the gifts of heart and hand, to the promises we hold, to the friends and family gathered here this day, you lift your cup to meet his. The hall answers in a rolling chorus of cheers and applause. You taste the rosewater. It is cool and fragrant. You offer a sip to your husband. He smiles, and drinks. You lower your cup and place it on the table. A minstrel takes up a lute and begins a gentle air. He sings of new beginnings and the strength of unity. The guests lean forward and listen. You close your eyes and let the melody wash over you. You sense the echoes of vows and blessings all around you. Your gaze drifts across the hall. The gifts remain on the dais in neat piles. The tokens of silver and cloth, the fruit and flowers, the wood and steel, all stand as witnesses to this day of promises. You feel gratitude for each hand that placed a gift here. You feel the weight of each vow made here. Your husband sits and lifts your hand to his lips. He presses a kiss to your palm. You see the glint of the amber necklace and the amber brooch on his cloak. You touch them and remember the lady's gift. You feel the warmth of gratitude bloom in your chest. The steward rings his bell and the hall quiets once more. He invites the guests to remain for one final dance. The minstrels strike up a lively tune, a reel of celebration. You and your husband rise and join the couples on the floor. The gifts remain on the dais as silent sentinels. You dance together beneath the chandeliers of candles. You feel every thread of your gown and every coin of silver in your pouch. You feel the promise of every helper who offered service in times of need. You feel the weight of tokens that will fill your home with abundance and loyalty. Around you the guests whirl and twirl. The hall glows with life. The music rises and falls like a heartbeat. You catch glimpses of faces full of joy and pride. You feel yourself held by a network of kindness, woven through every gift and every farewell. As the dance slows you and your husband share a final embrace, you bow to one another and to the gathering. You thank them for their gifts and their promises. The steward bids you farewell. Guests begin to depart, still chatting and smiling. You stand beside your husband as the last torches gutter low. Hand in hand, you walk down the dais and out into the courtyard. Your gifts await transport to your new home. Your heart overflows with gratitude, and as you step beneath the first stars of evening, you know that every token of silver and cloth, every promise of service, will carry you forward on the journey you begin today. The night air carries a hush as you and your husband step into the courtyard. Your guests line the edge of the manor grounds with torches held high. Their flames flicker in the gentle breeze, casting long shadows into the wood beyond. Wood smoke and candle wax mingle in the air. A herald sounds a horn low and clear, signaling that the procession will begin. You take your husband's arm and together you follow the torchbearers down a narrow lane fringed by ancient oaks. Their trunks rise like silent sentinels, their branches forming a vaulted canopy overhead. The path is soft beneath your feet, littered with fallen leaves and moss. Each step reveals another flicker of light ahead, where servants walk in pairs, guiding your way. Their lanterns glow red and amber. Crickets chirp in the undergrowth. An owl calls once from a bough above. The forest feels alive but tranquil. You feel the weight of your gown and the warmth of your husband's cloak at your back. He squeezes your hand as you step carefully over a gnarled root. You draw a steady breath and feel the thrill of moving toward your new home. Midway through the woods, the escort pauses at a small clearing. A table draped in woolen cloth holds flasks of spiced wine and cups carved from wood. A maid offers you a cup. You lift it to your lips and taste cloves and orange peel. The warmth spreads through you. Your husband sips from his cup and offers you a reassuring smile. Candles flicker on the table as the escort gathers around to share one last greeting before the final leg of the journey. Guests lean in to clasp your hands and offer soft prayers for safe passage. You promise to return one day for a visit under these very trees, to walk again the path where your future was sealed. The horns sound once more, and the procession resumes. The path narrows deeper into the woods. Soft moss gives way to packed earth. The torches jostle as horses clip-clop toward you. Your husband's manor is near. You hear the steady beat of hooves, and the jingle of harnesses. At last the trees thin, and you emerge onto a grassy glade. The manor's towers rise ahead, its windows aglow. Guards stand at the gate in cloaks of the house colours. Lanterns hang from the gateposts. Banners ripple in the night breeze. You feel your heart leap at the sight of your new home. The carriage wheels roll over gravel as you approach the gates. The drawbridge lowers with a heavy creak. You step from the path onto stone. Torches flare in welcome. Servants hurry forward with warm blankets and soft cloaks. You cross the threshold and enter the manor courtyard. The echo of hooves fades behind you. You inhale the scent of hearth smoke and wood polish. Your husband wraps a cloak of thick wool around your shoulders. Together you pause beneath the archway. The torchlight dances across the walls. You turn to face the path you came by and bow to the escort, thanking them for their guidance. They raise their torches in salute and then melt back into the night. The gates close behind you with a final clang. Inside the courtyard, torches glimmer like stars come to rest on earth. You lead your husband by the hand across the stones and into the great hall, your future glimmering warm before you. You think you know celebration. You have streamed festivals in peace and eaten catered hors d'oeuvre in comfort. You have clinked glasses in climate-controlled halls. But a medieval wedding would break you. First, you would wake before sunrise to change into clothes stiff with starched linen and heavy wool. Layers would cling like armor, as servants pinned and tied until you could not move without discomfort. You would choke on the scent of perfumed oils and roast meats cooking in smoky hearths. Then the noise would begin. Torchbearers hoist blazing torches before you. Town criers bellow bands on wooden barrels. Horns blast from the manor gates. Minstrels strike up shawms that wail like winter wind. The drums pound so deeply in your chest you would fear your heart might burst. You would march in procession beneath banners and garlands. Your feet would blister on stony paths. Your eyes would water from smoke and candle soot. Guests would jostle you for space, leave bruises you might not notice until dawn. Arrival at the church would offer no relief. The priest's Latin would roll over you like hail. You would kneel on cold flagstones for blessings of water, oil, bread, and salt. Your knees would crack and your back would ache. You would taste salt on your lips and wonder why this symbol of loyalty feels so cruel. Rings would scrape onto your fingers and feel too tight. You would taste fear more than metal. You would clutch your groom's hand just to steady yourself against the cathedral floor. Then the feasting would begin. Tables would sag under roasted swans, live birds, jellied eels, spiced hams, and pies so heavy they would crush your plate. You would eat until your stomach rebelled. You would drink spiced wine until your head spun and your senses blurred. You would nod politely at jesters juggling wooden clubs, acrobats flipping over your head, dancing under chandeliers, dripping beeswax candles that threatened to drop hot wax on you. You would shuffle in country dances taught in the dawn hours. You would step on toes. You would laugh through aches until your sides burned. You would weep when a final lullaby lulled you toward collapse. Then the gifts and farewells would come. You would stand for hours while guests laid tokens at your feet. You would smile as silver coins clinked in your pouch. You would nod at bolts of cloth heavier than you could carry. You would shift from foot to foot as elders blessed you again at the hearth, anointing you with oily herb mixtures that made your hair cling to your scalp. Finally, you would leave your father's home at dawn. You would climb into a cold carriage or saddle a warhorse. Torches would guide you down muddy lanes. Your gown would trail in the dirt. Your shoulders would ache from the weight of expectation. By the time you reached your new manor, you would be exhausted, bruised, hungry, and longing for a simple bed. You would crave a mug of cold water, a slice of bread without spice, and the silence of an empty room. And if you thought you could savor the romance, you would be wrong. Every moment of splendor would be etched with sweat and soot. Every symbol of love would leave its sting. Every feast would feed your hunger and then betray you with unease. A medieval wedding tested body, mind, and loyalty in equal measure. It demanded devotion from the heart while battering the flesh. It celebrated union with gifts and feasts and music, but at a price. You would not survive a single medieval wedding, not one sunrise of it, not one vow, not one banquet. The noise, the rituals, the feasting would break the unprepared modern soul. And yet, those who endured came away bound stronger than steel. Their marriages began with trials that forged loyalty in fire and love in warmth. Every ache and every blessing became a thread in the tapestry of their union. But you, untested by smoke and sweat and salt, would falter at the first torch lit. Step out the manor gates. Your breath would catch. Your knees would wobble. You would long for quiet and comfort. Medieval weddings were not for the faint of heart. They were for those who sought to bind their lives in abundance and loyalty, who embraced every sacrifice for the promise of love that endures. You would not survive.